To start the story, a young man grows up and he's in a pretty great home. He's got a great family. He goes to church every Sunday, maybe a Wednesday, if you pick 3 times a week sometimes. And he just was growing up thinking that everything was going really well for him. Well, tragedy entered that young man's life, and he was about 8.5 years old, and his father died of brain cancer. Now, before that brain cancer had happened, that young man had to go through a lot of hospitals. Like, he remembers sleeping in hospital chairs. He remembers having all kind of people inside of his house checking on his father. He remembers having just so much just dysfunctionality, like just enter his life out of nowhere, right? Because he was just entering this stage of where he was kind of just trying to get to be that church man and just kind of make everything the best he could. Well, as things progressed after the father passes away, the young man starts to question, why did this happen to me? He starts to play the victim. Like, I get it. He's young, and that's something that we all kind of do. But as he starts to do that, he starts to look at the world in a different way. Like, at first, he was looking at the world like, wow, I have a safe family. This is a great life. I'm enjoying everything. But then when he starts to see like something was taken from him, he starts to look at people differently. And you never want to do that. You always want to value people. We all have different perspectives that you should value, because even though a lot of times we might feel somebody can be wrong, or we might feel somebody has a different opinion, you've got to learn to wonder why. And it's because everyone has a story. And there's actually a quote, and it says that you couldn't help but love everyone if you just knew their story. And that really resonated with me one time when I heard that. I can't even attest to tell you who said it, but it just kind of goes along with what I'm telling you. Fast forward, the young man goes through some abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, and there's just a lot of things that just continues that dysfunctionality. Like, they say the snowball effect. It just keeps rolling into his life. Well, it's not like he had it all bad. He had great friends. He had a great neighborhood he was living in. He had a lot of things that were going for him. But that dysfunctionality is something he just started to know. Well, fast forward, he kind of just goes and starts his new life in Florida, because there's a thing that happens that allows his family to have the opportunity to do that. Well, when he's in Florida, he starting to find a new groove, and he feels a clean slate upon his life. Well, another step that enters the story of this young man, and he starts to kind of see that he had something against him already, didn't even know him. And he was just sitting there thinking like, wow, I just am just really deprived of like a real father figure. Turns out the young man was wrong. He was very headstrong, and he had this wrong mentality about the world. Well, he grows up to kind of just go after a pursuit of business, and he goes to a local college. It was a junior college at the time, and he met an individual that became his best friend. He opens up an entertainment company. And why am I telling you that? Well, number one, that was like one of the first versions of how he became an entrepreneur, but also it kind of reminds me of this room right here. See, the young man threw parties, and he put on events, and he had all these things kind of come together, but 5 people would show up, 10 people would show up. It was literally just breaking his heart. He's like, what can I do different? Like, I've got people putting out promotional flyers. I've got all these people cross-promoting my services. I've got a ton of people telling me that they believe in me. And he just goes through all the struggles that we have in success and going through as a business owner. Door knocking, tries that. Goes and works for Cutco Cutlery to try to pay for things on the side. We all know that company. That's something that he just did, and he had to do it because he was like, I have to prove something to myself. Because remember, in the very beginning stages of his life, he felt like he kind of only had himself because of what was going on. But at the same time, he was kind of making himself only have himself. So if you always think that, or if you've ever had somebody think that, make sure they see the real version of what's going on. Well, fast forward more, and there's more businesses that enter the young man's life, and there's more influencers that come into his life, and there's just all these things that he starts to attain a little bit of versions of personal development. And personal development was the first time that this man started to see that it was possible for him to do things despite the past he had. Because if you're so focused on trying to chase the future, then you're not going to be able to enjoy the present. But at the same time, you've got to know that your past never defines you. So he fast forwards throughout college, throughout a couple different businesses, and mostly failure. What I'm saying, guys, is he failed. One of my favorite things that comes from Will Smith is fail fast, fail early, fail often. And that's because of the fact that we're so intimidated by failure. Like, there's so many people that will tell you that you don't want to fail, and you may not want to be public speaking because it'll make you just so nervous. And there's things about it that you have to go through in order to get to that other side, in order to get to that part of yourself that you want to unlock. You want to unleash that part of yourself. Like when you were just saying a minute ago, you're like, I don't have much to say. They've all kind of heard it. And then when you unlocked it, like that passion started speaking and we all got into it. And I was just very thankful that you did that because like, that's how I am. I'm like, well, I'm just me. So hopefully, what did I tell you when I said public speaking is just when words come out? Hopefully it'll come out okay. Anyways, at the end of all those business endeavors and things like that, the young man, because of the fact that he had an entertainment background for a little while, a couple of years, ended up getting a DUI. He ended up getting in a lot of trouble. And there was just a turning point of his life that a lot of people would have never guessed. So like, man, this guy was so nice. And like, he was just, always there for you if you needed him. But yeah, he said he went through some things, but everybody goes through some things. So he hits a turning point of his life where he has to go and move out of a certain place that he'd worked very hard to get to. And he joins real estate. And his stepfather, the one I had told you about before, had been in real estate. His mother had been in real estate for a long time. And heck, he had done construction. He worked with special needs children and adults for 3 years. His first job was over at Dunkin' Donuts. He tried to grow an entertainment business. He had a mobile detailing service. He had a handyman service and everything else you could think of. This man actually just went to Tampa just for the heck of it, just to get licensed to do cementitious overlaying of flooring. You guys ever seen those pretty garages with like epoxy and whatnot? Anyways, he hit that turning point and he started to put people into his life, and it was virtually mentors. How many of you have a mentor? You have mentors? Awesome. Well, mentors are one of the most important things you can have in life. And I actually did on one of my latest podcasts and radio shows. It was called Mentors of Mastery. And what that was a testament to the people that young man had listened to. And he started talking about all these people that were pouring into his life. And instead of experiencing lack and void, he started to see possibility. He started to see truth. Well, how many of you guys could guess in the room that young man was me? Right. The big thing that I wanted to tell you with making that story a part of our morning is that although there's so many things that we all go through, there is always people that are going through the same thing. And it's just behind those smiles. It's behind those bright eyes. And you've just got to learn to value people first. The first thing that I do is I put God first. In the beginning of having all of that turning point of where I experienced so much in my life to kind of be dysfunctional, I was kind of depending on me. And there was a reason why I was attracting dysfunctionality. It's because I was believing it was all up to me. Now that I put God first and I know that people are also first because they are in his image, I experience much more things that make me feel like I have the secret. And I do, guys. I have the secret to life. So I know that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 people in here. I'm 29 years old. You're definitely probably thinking there's no way this young man can have a secret. But it's chase fulfillment. Chase fulfillment. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter who you are. If I've found one thing, and it's in these 29 years that I've been here, it's that I've gone after a lot of money. I've gone after things that make me feel good with materialism. I've gone after things that kind of give me that notoriety that I've always sought because I was young. I've been young this whole entrepreneurial time. And people look at me like, that's a young man. I don't know if I believe him. Or, well, you know what? I could go with this person who has 20 years of experience. I experience it right now. This is my 6.5 year in real estate. Done extremely well. Just last year, me and my team of 4 got to help over 50 families, all residential and all something that I really love to do. But there were times, and this will come with a success tip that I give you as well, and I'll have to probably revert to the journal and the notes that I wrote down because that's how I prepare for this. But there are times where I had to overcome that age factor. Well, what factors do you need to overcome? Like, is there some kind of limitation that you're placing on yourself? Is there some kind of ceiling that only exists because you have it there? I found that out of all these things that I've experienced and out of all these things that I continue to experience, whether it's a room of 5 or a room of 500, there is always a way to where you can become better than your previous self. You should never, ever, ever seek to build the biggest building in town by tearing everyone else's down. Right. Not once. You shouldn't make that a part of your success journey. You shouldn't feel that you have to lose trust with people that you've seen be wildly successful because they lost touch of that. I've found that there are broken homes behind very successful men and women. I have found that there are so many people that don't know how to grasp really what's going on right now. They're so worried and they're so caught up about what it is they have to attain in their future that they're just not taking time to appreciate the present. And the reason that is because they lost track of the secret, which is to chase that fulfillment. And why you do that is because at the end of the day, what do we all do? We say we work for something. Well, who do you mostly work for? I work for my kids. I work for my wife. I work for the people I love. Well, 9 times out of 10, even in those households where they really want to pursue doing those things for those that they love, they don't take advantage of most of the times that they have to actually spend time with them, because who are they trying to prove it to? Their self, really. They want to be there. We want to be there for our kids. We want to be there for our wife. We want to be there for our husband, however you may take it, however it may be. But at the end of the day, if you just look for those little bitty moments in the day to where you can just give back, and that's the one thing that I have as one of my mantras is to give and not take. Be a giver. Make sure that if there's 5 minutes you got to spend in front of a TV with a 4-year-old before you got to go roll off into 7 meetings. That's me right now. I have a beautiful girlfriend. She has a 4-year-old, and I have to do that. But those are moments I'm excited to have. And that may be something that might be me in a young mentality, or maybe I may be able to tell you this in 20 years and I'm still doing it. But the point is of all these things that I'm hopefully telling you is that I want to give you some sort of insight so that you can have inspiration to create a better tomorrow. I have a show right now and it's called Making an Impact. I wanted to create that movement because I wanted to have people feel inspired. There was a part of my life where I felt like I was at my lowest, went to jail multiple times after that DUI incident, and I had a lot of lawyers to pay off, and I had to take on 3 jobs at once. Had an awesome dog at home. Poor him. He had to stay in the house like 10 hours at a time, I'm sure. But I had to go through all that because I learned that my failures didn't define me. I learned that I chose to keep myself in that darkness. So if there's some kind of darkness, if there's some kind of holdback that you have that exists in your life right now, think about this young man's story the next time that you want to take on tomorrow. I'd like to invite you guys to just make an impact with me. Every single weekend, it's a small start. You're going to really help me make it. And you have as well already, Carrie, but it's something that I really, truly want to do, to not have like followers, to not have credibility. It's to be able to just give somebody a little insight, just to be able to just have that little voice that you have to listen to. That voice is not always loud. If you don't go chase a dream, it will not chase you. So I believe that purpose of having that radio show and the podcast that stems from that, and this talk with you here today, I believe that is just to make an impact. The leader of the entire station, when I first got the opportunity to partner with the radio station and to be able to have my show there, he had asked me, he was like, what's the goal? And I kind of paused. I mean, you see me, I don't really pause on a lot of things. I like to talk. But I paused and I said, I just want to help somebody have a better day. I just want to hopefully help somebody see that they're valued, that they're loved, and that they are appreciated. And I know that kind of just seems like this really high level form of, just not possibility, but no, that's only there because you believe it's only there. There was a time in my life where I believed that wasn't the secret to life. But now I chase fulfillment, and I want to invite you guys to do the same.